Where's the annual meeting this year?
Victoria.
Jim, you coming?
Yeah. Sure. I'm happy to go to live. Yeah. Real people.
I could go up and just eating at too after the meeting. What's the resort up there? I forget what that was. Yeah.
I never skied Mount Washington.
Coming to Michigan for AFS next week. Digs.
In August, right?
It varies. Sometimes it's in September, kind of goes around, but I think it's in late August.
Okay, well, here we are. What we'll do here is just go through the report, try to make final edits to anything we find that needs final editing. If you want to stop and talk about any of the points, you know, that's what we usually do anyway. So it's not, you know, final, so. So starting with the observer updates, I believe we have Pete online. So let's just start here on paragraph 8. I think, Dave, you said Pete has already seen these.
Yeah, he said he's okay with it, yeah. I don't know if he's online at the moment, I can't see.
Should that be how representative are the modeling results?
Paragraph.
Sub bullet 2.
It says how representative is modeling. That's right. It's written.
I think I've looked at the results.
Oh, well, yeah.
Looks like there might have been a chat just popped. Question mark is over on the GoTo. I don't know if somebody right here. I don't know if somebody's trying to. They've done something.
Can I get Anne Marie wants to get unmuted?
Ed, can you see that? Anne Marie's asking for the mic.
Yeah, I like it that way, Anne Marie. Just kidding.
I thought this mask was mute me, but
See the participants anywhere? No.
Right there. Show who's on.
We're working on it.
We're just trying to get Anne Marie unmuted.
Oh, yeah. So,
She should be able to unmute herself.
There we go.
hello. Anne Marie, you're muted now. Oh, who's gonna take control of me? Who is that? Oh, no, it's just a flag.
She'll need to,
Anne Marie, can you unmute yourself? There you go. Is your microphone volume up?
Is our microphone on?
Ours up?
Speaker on?
This is good.
have to try reconnecting again, Anne Marie. Otherwise, just type into the chat. She dropped off.
Looks like it.
Noting it's this particular paragraph, I suggest she's probably going to ask for a line to be added that's something like the Canadian Science, SRB noted the Canadian Science Advisors recalled the comments from the previous SRB, and then we'll stop with that. That's what I suspect, which is fine.
What about the comments you sent this morning?
I haven't seen any comments this one.
Those were on a particular section, all right?
Yeah, she had some comments on them. So yeah, I guess that's different, yeah.
Okay, try now.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Good night.
Yay. All right, I will mute myself now. Thanks.
I thought you wanted to talk.
Oh, not on this section in particular. I'll wait until we get there.
Put it in a line anyway.
That's right, all right, we'll leave it then.
Okay.
Just Anne-Marie, if you do have issues like that, if you can, there's a chat window where you can communicate directly with the tech team. And I know Ed was out for that moment, but that might help streamline things as well. Paragraph 9, I guess.
Okay, the 5-year research program. So paragraph 9. Ten. $11. Agreed/recommended. That's a new one.
No, it was just, I was unclear. So last night when I was reviewing the paragraph, you had recommended there. And I'm not sure it is a recommendation. So I just wanted to hear again your thoughts on it to see if that's the case, if you'd like it to go to the commission or whether it's something that you're, yeah.
I think
It may well be.
I think agreed is fine there. I think we're all on the same page that it should do that, but it was just,
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, it goes for the commission and then they spend time looking at it and deliberating on it.
that
12. $13. Still have this.
Yeah, this one I couldn't make heads or tails of, I'm sorry.
just Dave's little highlight.
Yeah, so I highlighted it because I didn't know what exactly you wanted.
Well, it was basically the discussion that we had yesterday regarding Appendix 3, I think, that had a list of objectives or tasks, and there was a problem that, funds, there were 2 funding columns. One was internal funding, one was external funding. And, it was yes, no, planned, or something like that. And in many of the areas, there wasn't any funding. And it was just some statement about how, if you don't have the funding to do everything, what was going to be prioritized, given that you don't appear to have the financial wherewithal to do everything that you had on the chart.
I recall, yeah.
So I'm not sure how to express that, but maybe you have some ideas about how to bring, how to best bring this to the attention of the commission in a way that would be useful.
This is what. Is it the proposed schedule of
Was that page 3 or was that
It
appendix
was appendix 3.
Appendix 3.
It's not page 3. Schedule of outputs. In appendix 3.
that?
Maybe instead of realistic, just because I think it's actually lacking in some areas. And so it's more like and a detailed assessment of funding and staff capacity, staffing needs. Something like that.
Capacity needed to complete the project.
Yeah.
And it's projects plural because there are multiple listed there.
Yeah, I'd just like to highlight that those projects that were indicated without IPHC internal funds and planned grant fundings, those projects, as you can see in that spreadsheet, were supposed to start later on. So none of those actually had started,
Then why are they in there?
because this is more of an aspirational list of topics to
But this
cover.
is for a 5-year period. If it's not covered in the 5 years, why are they in?
Because these are prioritized projects for which we will request external funds for. But we don't have the funds for them yet.
Should something be added to the appendix then? I mean, it's obviously published now, but in the future, which would highlight that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could put some more detail in there specifically that breaks that down. And I think that's the point I was making yesterday, where we could break it off. It's like, this is where we have the funding, this is the staffing resources we have, these are the aspirational components, and separate them so it's a little bit clearer. And I think that would highlight the fact that we feel that these types of projects are needed to meet the commission's requests or to advance commission science based on the commission requests, but we don't have the funding at the moment. Therefore, it helps us use that as I guess when we're applying for funding as well, it's like, it's been identified already that this is an important research stream. Okay, so we will do that.
Okay.
You want to write out schedule?
Routine, that first phrase is a little bit awkward there, so, and I think I wrote it, explicit approach in deciding which research programs to fund internally versus externally. Great.
$15.
You want to specify existing external repositories?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, because we have
Have your own,
our own website repositories, but I think the point was to make it more easily discoverable.
guess this is just here because of this call. Okay, the FIS. Right here. 16. $17. Oh, no, pretend that.
Document, which one?
Everybody seems happy with that. Figure 1 caption, it's not a problem. 18. Can you start like that? Noting?
Yeah, so otherwise it just sort of breaks it up too much if you put the SRB noted and then a new sentence, the SRB recommended.
Now, is this, yeah, I guess you can only say that for 2021. $19.
Space between proposed.
Nice. That was nicely wordsmithed there. Pre-optimization. Yes. Pre-optimization, subject to paragraph 19 there, that's what that means. Okay. Figures.
Mismatch of US and British Microsoft Word here.
Amalgamation, that's what we like to call it.
It's diversity and inclusion, man.
You don't want to leave the British.
Right. If we have to do pounds and kilograms, then we'll do both in every document.
Paragraph 20.
Put hurdle and Tweety in marks there. I know it's not necessary for a sort of a science document, but I'm just thinking of more like commissioners reading it.
Yeah.
And then just the recognition, oh, this is something else.
I think this one at least is capitalized. Hurdle. I think this could be like given the large size. Or could be given that.
Well, the efficiency problem is that you have two whole sets of parameters since you break it up into the presence, absence, and the
Yeah,
given presence.
I just want to get something here that, you know, it doesn't imply that it was a bad choice at the beginning. It was, what was,
It's a fine choice, but it's not just a computational issue.
the what choice?
It's a fine choice in the beginning, but it's not just a computational issue.
Right.
It's an issue of interpretation as well when you have two sets of covariates, one to explain whether there's presence or absence, and one to explain the abundance given presence. I think it's okay like it was, unless there's some problem.
Just sounded like, it read like, well, you know, you've been using it for so many years. Why didn't you use the more efficient one? Anyway. 21? Two? Okay, that's it for the fifth. So the MSC section 23. 24. Can I just get rid of suggested here? So the solution. Sense.
That which uses, we get that and which.
I'm more of a deleter than a
Yeah.
adder.
Projections of what?
Yeah, I was going to say catch projection, TCY projections or
Short-term projections of SPR, actually, responding potential ratio.
of SPR.
Or, well, yeah, that's a good point. It wasn't the projections, but it's, you get a better match to predictions of SPR. I think it was the case because I was comparing 2021 and 2022. To the
Predictions of-
assessment. Predictions, yeah.
Better match short term. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe instead of short-term, recent, because it was matching the 2021 and 2022 predictions of SPR and the operating model to the SPR used in the assessment.
We need the additional text where it talks about the discrepancy between the operating model and the
Oh,
assessment
right.
models.
Yeah.
It's recent, they should be estimates, not predictions, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. 25.
It's actually a comment box there with text that I can scroll.
You
scroll.
just hit that red arrow, actually, go to
This thing?
and you might have to click, double click. Understand comments in the new one. Dave, I guess my first question is it okay to just refer to described under agenda item 6?
It's that's one of the reasons why I highlighted it, because this is agenda item 6, and it's just unclear exactly what you're referring to. So maybe if we can try and be specific. I'm just thinking of a commissioner reading.
Yeah.
The sentence.
I mean, I think the general idea is just to say, yeah, we agree that what Alan has done to incorporate decision-making variability is the way to go.
Oops.
And I was also wondering if this is a recommendation or a endorsed.
I think endorsed or agreed.
Okay. So perhaps the SRB endorsed.
Oh, I actually wrote something.
Well, that's a different one. Sorry.
I'm clicking on stuff and it's just.
Yeah. So 25. The SRB endorsed incorporating the decision-making variability framework.
What about
Would it be
endorse
better?
the approach to incorporating decision-making variability presented in document number?
Yeah, I was wondering, is that okay to put the document number in there?
Yeah, sure.
That was, it's 9, but I'll double check.
Endorse the approach.
But in 23, you already say the paper.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah, it's right there. Oh,
Agenda
Yes,
item 6
that's
for the
right.
agenda, but
I'm just sure it was fully fleshed out in the document. I can't remember.
was it?
Just checking that it was described in the document, otherwise we'd have to refer to the presentation. Sit down.
We could just refer to the presentation.
Yeah,
Describe.
Delete the after incorporating. Delete framework since we already have the approach.
it would be better to refer to the presentation. Dave, would you say the presentation associated with document?
No, so, yeah, if you just put, yeah, leave it like that. And what I'll do is I'll take the document number and then just add PPT at the end of it and then hyperlink to the presentation.
Okay. 26. Alan's got lots of comments here.
Just trying to, well, yeah, 26.
Which are appreciated. Noted. Now, is this what Anne Marie, is this the 26, the one that you're referring to, or oh, there's another one on these metrics? '27.
Okay, so this one, I think flagged for me something along the lines of the economic performance measure recommendation. In particular, it seems to me that the commissioners have been pulling back from economics in terms of evaluations. So last interim meeting, they requested that the biosocioeconomic conditions were removed from the status summary table, and that at this year's annual meeting, they concluded the work of the economic study. So it seems like they're not really going down that road much, or they seem to be pulling back. Also from the Canadian MSAT members, I've heard questions about, because the idea of economic performance measures had come up, I think, at our, was it in May info session? There were some questions about what sort of added value the economics will bring, particularly in terms of what's the trade-off of being informative versus something else for the participants to become positional over and essentially fighting over, particularly if the performance measures are being calculated at the level of regulatory areas where people can see how does that affect me and my fishery in specific. People tend to get pretty tied up on those specific numbers, which I think has led to the commissioners talking about aggregating performance measures. I'm hoping that Alan will have a better memory as to when this has come up and what the discussion around it has been, but my impression is that the commissioners have been talking about aggregating performance measures to a level that's sort of higher than regulatory areas to get around things like this that's happening at the MSAB, where they sort of come to an impasse in discussion. I don't think they've come to any conclusions about what level of aggregation, but that seems to be the trend of their discussion.
I wonder if response to that, maybe just putting additional coast-wide performance metrics then might be helpful.
Is that something
think
that
that
we
would
have
be
to get
super
involved
helpful.
in? I mean, I think we can recommend science and they can decide that they don't want to do science, right?
But I mean, what was described to us as the dissatisfaction with the economics was more in terms of what Amory was talking about in terms of allocation and disproportional allocation, bringing some of that to the surface. What we were talking about is like the different size limits and that sort of thing, where the economic concerns really were potentially in the future driving. And so that's a whole different can of worms, I think, in terms of the economics, and it would be important to say. So I agree with Olaf that if that does potentially affect management decisions regarding.
We agree.
So is this something that we could, recommend that these things be taken into consideration, like rather than saying we recommend you go and do this, that we recommend you and the other bodies consider these things? Just because it really is up to them, right?
Yeah, and then just, I guess, talking about the process, I mean, the recommendations from this meeting go to the commission, and then they consider and they decide. I'd be hesitant to suggest pulling this out for the reasons that I just highlighted. It's recommending something from a science perspective that would be useful. And the commissioners have actually asked about what would be the economic implications of harvesting smaller fish.
Sure.
They're not asking for the economic analysis that was being done to be revived. This is a different topic.
It's very specific. Can you sell small fish and at what price?
So could we add something more specific here, like the economic consequences of size limits?
I thought we were working on 26.
I called 27 when Anne-Marie reacted to this, but
Yeah, my comments were specifically on 27, not on 26.
Oh, okay, so you're good with 26.
yeah, it's already there, 26.
Okay.
Well, I think,
Oh, I don't care much about 27. I mean, I think it seems like you've got tons of performance metrics already, and the MSAB's really well placed there to decide those.
yeah, I mean, the one I do like about this is this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll just take this economic one out of here. As it is in the paragraph above.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
That works.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think 27 was really in response to your comment, Ellen, about, needing to look at some additional performance metrics. I don't think we need to change anything here, but I just wanted to highlight again that I think there's a real risk in these things of overloading decision makers with performance metrics and having them choose simpler but worse options simply because of the way that the complexity is presented. But you seem well aware of that. So.
And I think that's what Anne-Marie was getting at with her mentioning the commissioners were hoping to aggregate performance metrics instead of reporting 50 at regulatory area levels, and then you're just overwhelmed. Can we aggregate those to regions or some other way to still get the feel for how it's happening in areas, but we're not trying to look at 30 performance metrics at the same time.
Right.
So that's something I'll be working.
Yeah. I think with a lot of these things, there are trade-offs, and Pareto frontiers are a really nice way to look at that, right? I mean, can you do better than the standard trade-off with some of these options? because that really highlights where you might want
Yeah,
to take a closer look at this one.
that's a good point.
Moving along, 28.
I tried to put in some words, but I'm not sure if these are the right words to use.
Just FIS indices.
Okay,
And that way, because the index comes from the space-time model, but then we don't have to
Okay.
write it all out.
Yeah.
Because of the unbalanced design, the raw data aren't really amenable to doing this.
Great.
and then I was thinking the second one where I put WPOE, that's more specific to the method that is actually being evaluated in the MSE right now. And since catches it, we figured using WPOE.
Should we say modeled WPUE just to be
Yeah.
clear?
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Space-time model or just model?
Modeled probably.
I think this is a really helpful comment to help them see the bridge from what we're doing to something that's really not that different.
Exactly. I think as a communication tool, it'd be helpful to plot that,
Yeah.
assessment estimate versus the FIS and show that visually that these are the same thing. I don't know if we need a recommendation for that, but
See that?
Okay. Moving along, 29.
So I think I might have misled you on the paragraph for 29 and the incorrect paragraph got inserted here. I think we were discussing in getting to paragraph 30, which is about the MPs on a 3-year cycle, that 29 would be recalling, and I have it in the comments, this paragraph in the italics right here, rather than that paragraph. And I think it might have been my fault in that I said I thought it was paragraph 21, but it's actually paragraph 27 from the SRB report. And then it has a nice flow into that request.
So move this over.
Well, I think first is the SRB recalled SRB 20, paragraph 27. Like what I
Fix
think,
that.
I think this would be the first part, and then this would replace that italics.
great, good.
And that was what we just flow of justifying that the request.
Yeah, right. Thanks.
I'm just gonna
We
try to
talked
fix
about that,
that.
but I didn't make it in there.
Yeah, and I think I said 21, paragraph 21 off the top of my head.
Just one thing we'll always do is if it's a request or a recommendation, we'll include the recommendation or request number. So I'll quickly dig that out and just replace the 05.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
It was just a
So
note.
this should be say paragraph
Say again.
27.
That paragraph was a note, wasn't actually a request or a recommendation.
Okay.
It's not copying and pasting for me, so rather than
Weird.
That's
you
right.
struggle.
You just put a quick few words there that say move across paragraph 27. I think we'll just do that.
Close this thing. Suggested. Just gonna deal with this now.
Are we on 30 then?
Just
Yeah, let's
Just quickly though, pull back on 29. So it's the SRB is recalling paragraph 27, which is shown below, and requested an update at SRB is still applicable or not?
27 is not shown below, right? It's
It will be though.
Yeah,
First line of paragraph 29. They're shown below.
Yeah, so you're asking, are we making this request? Is that what you're asking?
you know, we're making it
Because
30,
previously
right?
it was requested, so I don't know if it applies anymore.
I think the request isn't 30, and this was just a recall as a little background.
Okay, so I can get rid of this then.
Yes.
It's no longer request 5 from,
Sorry, 20. This one here.
just paragraph 27, right?
Good with that?
So on 30, I just wanted to, I just added a little bit to hopefully clarify my confusion at least. This was late last night. But the first part in I, or 1, is this approach would be simpler and more transparent than a model or empirical approach, both of which have not been developed. But there have been 3 empirical approaches that are being simulated and evaluated. So I didn't know if we wanted to just mention,
Can we just delete the parenthetical there?
yeah, I think that would be. So,
What should I delete?
The whole thing in parentheses.
yeah, that part there.
I think we could leave this, but get rid of empirical approach since you said that's what you are doing, which I agree. But the model-based approach is the one that, what this is trying to say is
Gotcha.
you haven't developed it yet, so maybe you should hold off and see if the current approach is acceptable.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. Then you can delete all my, yeah.
Okay.
And then I wasn't sure what was meant by benefit slash cost. The high benefit slash cost for multi-year TCY.
It's supposed to be the ratio.
Yeah.
High benefit to cost ratio.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. So maybe you could delete my potential, keep the high in there.
I can see the commissioners asking immediately, what benefit?
It's going to be in the previous paragraph.
And I think that's why we need to recall that
Yeah.
paragraph.
Yeah,
Previous SRB.
good.
Sure.
So
Look at that question at the annual meeting.
Yes, you will.
Yeah,
How much? Like how many dollars are you talking?
I'll remind you, Sean.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to,
So Sean, we also need to delete potential and restore high.
this one?
If you right click on high, you could go,
Do I delete high as well? Yeah.
we want to keep it.
Oh, keep high. So, geez, how do you do that? Is it-
Right click and go reject deletion. Thanks, that's really helpful.
Yeah, this is a lot clearer now for exactly those reasons.
Yeah, through the MSC. Stock assessment, paragraph 31. Lots of stuff. This looks like the previous one.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. Being updated with the numbers there, so. Just highlight that text there. I'll make sure that it reflects the paragraph 23 and 25, for 2 and 4.
Okay. So the italics are correct.
Okay, so 33. What is this one here for? Is that something going
Just
on below?
because you recommended more work and we haven't done it yet. We've only kind of decided what we're gonna do. So we'll be presenting both of those and updated at SRB 22 next June. It just makes it simpler so we can reference this document instead of this one and the last SRB report.
33. This is something you could simulation test. I don't know how model dependent it is. You can have a simulation evaluation framework that was separate from the assessment. You could do some basic analysis of it to see under what conditions is it good.
Yeah, Ian and I were talking about that yesterday, trying to brainstorm a little bit on how we could do that.
It's not obvious.
Yeah, I think there's a few little quirks to it.
A lot of the simulation testing would require you to make some decisions about how well the underlying model matched the existing models, which is the big unknown, right?
Yeah,
That's what you want to
Which
do.
is what we don't know.
It's kind of, it's
So
pretty
you don't-
circular.
Yeah, you almost want to do a general test of different cases or something like that.
But I like the idea of just backing up a step and saying, and maybe you guys want to comment on this particularly, that one step ahead prediction seems like a promising avenue. MACE is one way to look at it. There are other ways. What we need to do is step back and say, okay, we're pretty focused on this one step ahead prediction. Let's do a broader search and see what other options we have, both for calculating the MACE and for other metrics we could use.
That was exactly the point I was making
Yeah.
yesterday. If that's clear enough to you, is it okay to keep this, or do we need to say something a little bit more positive about it?
Well, the only thing that's missing is just some kind of a acknowledgement that the one step ahead is a promising avenue for more research. You don't have to say it because we're gonna, that's where we're focused, but we have over the last few years looked at a lot of different ways to weight models.
Yeah, so how
Retrospective
about-
behavior,
okay,
fit
yeah.
to the survey, other things.
How about this? The SRB agreed that one step ahead prediction.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
In
Just
33.
Instead of requested?
After the SRB agreed, not instead of requested. So the SRB agreed that one step ahead prediction is a promising potential weighting criterion.
Potentially promising.
Is a promising basis for weighting. Yeah, great. And requested. Good.
excellent.
You got all three levels of keywords. in there.
I know.
That is impressive.
I didn't hear the dinging. You know,
Yeah.
this gives me a hook to be able to talk about one step ahead predictive skill and describe that to people, because the more I can warm them up now, in a year or two or three, when we have an actual weighting metric, then it won't be a surprise
Yeah, yeah.
that this is going to be the basis for it,
So,
assuming that
I've
we
heard
get there.
those terms before.
Yeah.
Good.
That's really helpful. Thanks.
34. Thirty-five.
On 34, I will probably present an update in June of what it would have looked like, just so that we can see. It'll give us a good check and see where it would have been.
Five.
It's obvious to us, but I wonder if you need to mention, just mention that it's a trade-off, that what we're interested in is whether we can free up resources for something else. I don't think you necessarily need to add that here, but that's what we're thinking, is that we could reduce the annual analysis in order to provide for additional resources to do other things. I know that's always a popular topic, is how are you optimizing the resources you've got to best generate the most and most relevant information. Yeah.
Okay. To our biological and ecosystem section. Thirty-six. So. Eight. Nine. Ready?
The last portion of the last sentence, and by what set of individuals collected? I don't understand the meaning.
Well, data to be collected and used to determine occupancy and. What's that?
Well, what are you collecting? Where are you collecting them? How are you collecting them? But there were,
Oh, the source, you mean?
yeah, the
sources.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah, yeah.
the source of individuals collected, maybe that would be better.
By what source of it?
Could we just say the data sources?
Sure.
By what?
Because it's not just individuals.
Data sources?
Yeah.
Thirty-one. Wire need to be capitalized there?
Yeah, we had a couple of comments here. And I think the first one was from Alan.
Yeah, and it asks in there, the data available be summarized and mapped. And that was done in the movement review paper by Carpy et al. A couple of years ago. She summarized all of the data that we have and tried to map it, show the relationships. So I'm not sure if that's sufficient, or the SRB would like a more specific look at the wire, or maybe just pull that out of that paper for presentation.
Was not this tagging study underway? Wasn't this
Oh,
what
okay.
Claude was talking about yesterday? So it was ongoing work. It wasn't the summary of past stuff.
Okay, so is this in, I guess that's a good point then. We've been wire tagging U32 halibut for how many years? 20 years. And so you're referring to specifically the DMR
Yes.
recreational DMR
Right,
study?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Noting
So those were all sizes. So that might just say the recent wire tagging
all
from
sizes.
the recreational study.
Right. Yeah.
So it makes much more sense. Yeah.
Recreational U32?
No, all size recreational.
Yeah.
Take out U32.
All sizes recreational?
Yeah. And then maybe after Pacific halibut, would it be helpful to say as part of the recreational DMR study? Is that what?
Then maybe recreational Pacific halibut is also is redundant. So noting information,
Yeah.
recent wire tagging of Pacific halibut as part of the recreational DMR study.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Recent wire tagging of,
Of Pacific halibut. That's part of. Yeah, that clarifies, because we thought the comment was intended to another portion. Document.
Well, yeah, that works for me.
okay,
And I think the blue is just highlighting, is there any clarification needed in that, in the parentheses? A little bit.
Probably be
I think in the original version, it was there was a full stop after data and then a full stop after mention. Not sure. It's now captured.
Yeah, and that.
sorry, you said there's a full stop somewhere?
No, there was in the version you sent last night. So I think it makes more sense to put it in brackets, but also now it makes sense to all have it deleted. It looked more like a comment than text, so.
And
So I think the current, with it deleted, I think it reads fine to me. Okay?
the last part of the sentence, that sentence, tissue collections to be taken, that was already a request that the SRB made in SRB 19. On the collection of tissue samples from all the research activities, and I think we made a mention yesterday that was already done.
Well, I guess one thought was that anytime you can continue to bring to the commission's attention that opportunistic sampling for purposes in the future of things like genotyping and sexing would be useful, right? Even though there isn't an explicit use for the data right now, these opportunistic sampling opportunities can really bear fruit over time because you could continue to accumulate spatially and temporally a data set that could be useful later. So that, I guess that was the reason why I thought.
Yeah, particularly the tagging, right? I mean, if you've got tagging information on these fish and later on you're able to do genotyping.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, we're doing that already.
So that could even be a separate
But, I
bullet,
mean,
and
you
it
don't-
could be, the SSC agreed that all activity where possible should include tissue samples for a diverse range of analyses.
Will it?
We've essentially already implemented that. Almost every fish that we handle now is getting a tissue sample, if not every fish. All of our port fish and all of our survey fish,
And those are
then
being archived
special
for
projects.
later use.
Yeah, and I think,
Yeah, from all research projects, in
Yeah.
addition to the FIS, and obviously the commercial samples have
Somebody else controlling
an
this?
example. So every single fish that we encounter, both in research and in monitoring, there are genetic samples taken and archived.
Oh, that sounds like a storage issue.
We store them on dry paper,
Oh, I see, okay.
on Wetman paper. We're following protocols that were developed at the Northwest Fisheries Science Center here in Seattle.
And
We
that's-
just use scale envelopes.
Yeah.
You know, because it already got the pre-stamped information that you could write all the data on, and we just put them in there. And certain kind of paper, previously the paper was really lousy because it was made with a craft pulp operation, and it didn't do very good things to DNA. But the recent ones, I mean, it's a great way to store things
no mold issues.
if they're dried completely.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just grab a whole wad of them and put them together with a rubber band, and then they just rot. So they have to be dried, separated for several days first. But once they're dry, they stay for a very long time. I mean, we do 40, 60-year-old scale samples, thin clips for, longer than that. So yeah, drying is a very efficient way to do it.
Okay, how does that read now?
Yeah, surveys or research projects.
That's what I was using.
I'm hoping that when close kin marker capture becomes logistically and financially feasible, we'll already have the samples to
Exactly,
do it. We just
exactly,
need to
yeah.
Have the resources to run them.
These comments here.
I mean, if you're gonna do that, though, you really have to have information like age or size or something like that. Because
Correct.
if you're looking at cross generation, you wanna
Yep.
be very critical about which samples you're subsampling to use for that.
All right, let's go. 43. Twenty-four.
Is 44 something the SR or 45, the noting? Sorry, are we on that one?
Continue. 44, yeah.
That's fine. I was thinking the next one.
Okay, 45.
We had a discussion of this yesterday, and I thought I tweaked this a little bit to capture what I think Ian was, at least I hope I did, to capture where you were going. Maybe it's not as clear as you would have wished.
No, I think it's fine. I'm just wondering, is this something the SRB would like a report on at the June SRB 22? sort of put in a time factor on it.
I don't think this really necessitates any analysis. It's more of a
Thought process.
thought process, right? I mean, so I wouldn't, you know,
So maybe it's,
I wouldn't see that there would be any sort of simulations that you would want to do if in an absence of data that which would inform how to do it, right? I mean, I think just it would be like, well, there are several different scenarios that you could envision that would happen, you know, finding samples that are genetically very different from anything you collected before. That would be one. What does that mean? What would that, you know, where would, you know, where did they come from? Where are they? Where are they found? Or if there were population there was evidence of population subdivision in areas not already found, like what happens if it's in some area that the data has not already found. You know, for instance, oftentimes, if you're looking at analysis of outlier loci, you have millions of SNPs, but if you whittle this down and you're just focusing on those markers which have very high discriminatory potential, then oftentimes you can pull otherwise white noise out of the data simply because you're subsetting loci which are geographically, spatially informative, and that might provide some insight that you haven't seen before.
cool, thanks.
So is request too strong a word, or?
No, I just want to make sure that, I think, yeah, I think it's fine. I think just as part of the presentation on stock structure, we'll include a slide on how this may affect NSE business. Simple as that.
Okay, 46. Forty-seven.
For individuals, and the second, yeah, is it for individual sampling locations or for individuals in sampling locations?
Yes.
Individual sampling locations?
No, for individuals or sampling.
But individuals or sampling
Well,
locations?
no. Well, I mean, you can do the analysis using or not using the spatial data as a prior. So I would just say for individuals, delete sampling location. Maybe you don't even need for individuals, given that there's some redundancy. You just say the SRB. I don't know if should is a strong statement. So for it's another recommendation. SRB recommends that the Secretariat estimate. Oops.
What if you
You just don't use keyboards. It's really clunky. Analysis be conducted, a clustering.
For individuals, so delete the period.
For individuals.
Period. Or yeah, then a comma, and then two. That's just not the second, yeah, just estimate. And that last sentence is just a description of why 1 and 2 would be interesting.
Okay, 48.
Sent Andy a couple of papers on this yesterday.
Tajima D should be analysis.
Should we specify this selection is natural selection? Or that's
It
understood?
could be, I mean, there are various forms of selection, balancing selection, directional selection. The selection could be of natural or anthropogenic origin. I mean, there are many different types of selection. I didn't
Okay, select, as is fine.
think, yeah.
I'm hitting some kind of. What's that gonna do? Yep. Maximize, there we go, sorry about that. Testing my buttons here, see. Yeah, good typing. 49. Is that correct? To individuals or individual?
Yes, yes, individual, that's fine. OS.
Okay, 50.
Cited is with a C.
What
Third
are you?
line there. Right before the link to IPHC 2022.
One. You want to separate that second recommendation into a new bullet paragraph?
No, I mean, it all talks about developing and screening panels of markers. So I think it all belongs together.
Okay.
There's a full stop before CKMR or CKMR. Maybe that could go in parentheses, the CKMR applications, the pedigree analysis.
Almost there.
And the last sentence says, evaluate accuracy of population based on, we're missing something there, or is that,
No,
we don't know.
it just depends on the accuracy of the population.
Pedigree-based assignment. So you'd like to know,
It doesn't say pedigree-based assignment.
oh, based
This is
or,
population
it should be or, right,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Yes, it's an or, not
All right.
not. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
I understand now. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. That'll take us, that's it. We're at 52.
If it's saved, we're good and we're all adopted.
We're saved.
Yeah, that's it.
So do we want to take just a few minutes to talk about SRB composition?
That'd be great. Yeah. So obviously with Sven having departed, we have been looking for a replacement and we'd like to have someone in place by the next SRB meeting. And then also Kim indicating that he's going to be stepping out at the end of next year. Is that correct?
Yes, I'd be available in June, September next year, but September was my plan right now. I'm completely retiring October 1. That's the plan right now. But I'd be available regardless of when that happens through next year.
Thanks for giving us plenty of advance. You actually mentioned it at the last meeting. So giving someone a year and a half advance notice is fantastic. We appreciate it. And so, yes, we're looking for potential candidates, obviously to be subject focused. And very keen to hear your suggestions. If you have anybody you'd like to recommend, that would help us great.
So you want to tell them about Dan?
Well, the group that's led by Dalhousie University is DFO Genetics Lab and some other people on the Atlantic coast have been working with genomics of Atlantic a little bit for some time. They're quite a bit advanced, both in terms of the development of the genome and the application of the genetics data, including close kin mark recapture. The faculty member leading that is Daniel Rosante. He's at Dalhousie. He would be somebody that has expertise in genetics and genomics as well as ecology, fish ecology. He's done work beside genetics work with brook trout. He's fairly well known for his work with brook trout and other species. So he would be one person. There are a couple of people here locally at NIMS that are really quite good. I don't know if they would be available. They're pretty busy. One is Krista Nichols. Krista is just outstanding. She's the head of the genetics group at Montlake. There's a couple of other people there in that group that might be qualified as well. Those are two people that come to mind. Another one would be Andrew Whiteley. He's at University of Montana, biological sciences, also sort of interdisciplinary background with an emphasis on fish genetics and genomics. Another one, a little bit more junior, who's just outstanding and really quantitative, is Marty Cardos, C-A-R-D-O-S. He's living in Montana, but he also works at Montlake. He works for NOAA. He's been on the staff there for 3 years now, but because of COVID, he hasn't moved his family out here. Marty would be outstanding as well. So those are.
Yeah, if you could send through that sort of list and we can sort of have a look and speak with commissioners as well and see if there are sort of priorities for them, that would be fantastic. That would be great help.
I'll add one to the list. Malin Pinsky, who's a fish population geneticist, has done a lot of work on stock structure, including summer flounder on the East Coast, as well as climate change impacts on fisheries.
What's the first name, Paul?
Sorry, Malin Pinsky.
Malin?
M-A-L-I-N.
And
He's at UC Santa Cruz, or soon will be.
he has a background in modeling as well.
Yeah, he's a quantitative economist. So
He's really smart on modeling.
Do we want to also confirm meeting dates for upcoming SRBs while we're here?
We could certainly put them there. Coming out of COVID, it's hard to think about next year's meetings, but is there preferred times for you in June, for example?
We have the Southern Lutheran meeting here in Seattle, which is usually around the same. So I'd have to find out. those dates are.
Do they normally publish well ahead of time, or are they still?
I think we might have.
Is the June dates working for all of you guys as well, roughly, for the first SRB meeting? No issues.
Which week are we? It seems like we've adjusted that week back
Yeah.
and forth the last couple of years.
Last summer.
And it usually revolves around SBT with Sean and school holidays. Two factors that kick in.
Yeah, I'm not available the first 2 weeks.
First 2 weeks
But
are
I am the week of the 19th and 26th.
Yeah, so just as an example, so the final week in June next year is the start of school holidays. So I think that would be a bit of a challenge for some staff. So it sounds like that third week would be,
I think the third week is the one we usually do. It's kind of the one that this year, the SBT was in the second. So that,
so tentatively, we could say the 20th, 21st, 22nd of June next year. How's that? Everybody has that date they're looking.
Yeah.
Do you have confirmation of those school holiday dates?
I'm looking at it. What do you want to know?
Seattle school holidays. And I have it on my calendar as last day of school is the 26th of June. So I'm assuming that the rest of that week is.
That's what I have
Yeah,
for
that's what-
Edmonds, but I don't know if you guys are affected by the strike, if they're gonna tack on extra days.
They can, you know what I have to say about that?
Yeah, well, I can't believe the last day of school is a Monday and it's a half a day anyway.
It's bizarre.
What the heck?
Do they want to?
that's been going on for years. I remember when I was a kid, that happening. And I said, what?
I wouldn't go if I was a guy.
You just-
So here, I currently have flights leaving the country on the 27th. For leave with the kids.
Nice.
So that probably week works well. I can see at the moment, the 20th, 21st, 22nd of June. Okay, so we can put that as firmly tentative. And we'll do a double check to make sure there's nothing else. And then the September meeting around these dates, again, should be fine.
This week is the North Pacific Council's Groundfish Plan Team, which I'm a part of.
Next year.
Well, it's happening this week right now, and they discussed it at the meeting on Monday. They have tentative dates of the 18th to the 22nd of September. But I told them, I said, I tell them every year that the SRB may have to coincide with those dates. But if there's opportunity for the week of the 25th, that would allow me to attend more meetings that month.
It doesn't leave you any room for the MSAP deadline.
That's true.
Well, I guess you didn't.
Well, I didn't have it this year either. I had to publish the MSAP documents before we could get the SRB recommendations.
So the only other thing in September is obviously the work meeting. We haven't We don't have agreed dates for the work meeting next year, but it's usually in that second week.
Yes.
So we want to just hold that tentative at the moment and figure it out.
I'm sorry, which,
What did you want to lock in? If I was to pick dates, I would say the 18th, sorry, the 19th, 20th, 21st. But as Alan was just saying, there's a plan team meeting there. In September, what dates are you all available?
There's usually a Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council meeting earlier in September, but those dates haven't been set yet. You should know those within a week or two.
Maybe we'll just slate it as tentatively the third week in September, and we can figure that out in June. Even. It doesn't have to be locked in early.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mid-Atlantic Council meeting is usually the first or second week of September, so that should work fine.
I don't think the SBT meeting is set yet. No, it's not on the schedule.
Okay, so I'll just include a single paragraph in the report under adoption of the agenda there that just says that the SRB proposes SRB 22 to be held from the 20th to the 22nd of June 2023, and SRB 23 tentatively the third week of September 23 with dates to be finalized, something like that.
That's good.
Okay. Yep. It's a place marker to refer to. Okay.
and if the SRB could request that the secretariat book the Ballard.
Yeah, put that in the report. SRB requested.
Rather than
Wherever you are.
20-minute Uber both ways, that would be very much appreciated.
Yeah. Absolutely. Person who normally books is in another meeting. I can hear them in the training room, so they're not listening, but we'll make sure that message gets through.
We appreciate all they do for us.
No, it's been, yeah, the help with the travel and the accommodations is super, super helpful.
So I do have parking I paid for.
So if you go see, maybe after the meeting, we'll quickly touch base. So I think there might be people still online. So if we can drop the report. Good.
Motion seconded, adopt report. Where that works. Motion to adopt the report. First and a second. You're here.
Thank you very much. We will publish that this afternoon.
Thank you.
Ed, you can close out the webinar.